Okay, welcome everybody. Today we are going to cover a couple very important things. Um, I say they're very important because when we talk about addiction, and that's what we're going to be covering a lot of today, is addiction. And when people stop doing what they're doing, whether it be alcohol, whether it be pills, whether it be marijuana, what have you, there's a process that's involved and people struggle, it seems like, universally with the process. When I say struggle with, once they stop, everything is great for a couple of days, and then it gets worse and worse and worse, and then people relapse almost 80% of the time within the first 2 weeks to 3 weeks. So I want to discuss kind of what that process is and why that's happening and what to do to counter it. Okay, so let's use an example of alcohol. Okay, I think everybody can relate with alcohol. I think everybody's at least tried it or done it. Or cigarettes, marijuana, coffee. So it doesn't have to be a narcotic. Okay, caffeine is a big one. Cigarettes, nicotine is a big one. Alcohol, marijuana, those are the most common. So let's start with that, okay? Let's say that I've been a bartender and I drink alcohol regularly, almost daily, because, and that doesn't mean I'm drinking a lot. It just means that after a shift, we may have a couple drinks. I go out to dinner, have a couple drinks. And then I party every once in a while and maybe get drunk and so on and so forth. But I'm just in a regular pattern. Now, is it impairing my functioning? Probably yes, but not to the degree that I'm aware of. Do you understand what I mean by that? Most people that are in those patterns, they're like, well, I'm paying my bills. I'm showing up to work. I'm doing a reasonably good job. How is that impaired? Well, physically, drinking alcohol daily, even in moderate amounts, does that affect you physically? Yes, absolutely, in a very negative way. You see, when you introduce that as a nutritional supplement into your body, alcohol, your cells get used to it. And it doesn't even have to be, there's no nutritional value in it. But what I'm saying is when you introduce a substance into your body regularly, your cells, even at a cellular level, start to get used to it. So then what it does is it adapts and allows that alcohol to be part of the process of that cellular design. Okay? It's not permanent, but the cells now are expecting to have it in there, and they utilize it as part of the process. So the withdrawal happens when those things are removed from your body. Your cells at the cellular level are not happy at all, because now they're starving from something that they've had and utilized over and over again for maybe years. So there's a side effect to that. Usual and customary for withdrawal is, the stereotypical is what? The tremors, right? You're shaking and stuff. You watch the movie and the person's vomiting and shaking and passing out, all that good stuff. That's rare. That's very, very rare. That's definitely not usual and customary. In fact, I would say that a majority of people are what they call asymptomatic in their withdrawal. That simply means that a lot of people don't have withdrawal symptoms that are overt. They have irritability, stomach upset, mood swings, changes in appetite, sleep disturbance, blood pressure, no matter what, is going to be affected. Those types of things. Now, those could be very mild or they could be extreme. Okay? Most people have moderate to very mild asymptomatic withdrawal from those types of things. Okay? So when people say, well, I'm not having the shakes and I'm not, withdrawing because I'm not, it doesn't look like in the movies, that doesn't mean you're not going through it. It just simply means that you're like the average majority that doesn't have the usual and customary symptoms. Does that make sense? Okay. How long does it take for this discomfort, this physiology to regulate? The brain, when using mind-altering substances regularly, or even caffeine and nicotine, how long does it take for the brain to kind of re-regulate itself back to a reasonably normal? Anybody take a stab at it? 1 day, 10 days, 30 days, a year? Give me an estimate.
6 months.
6 months? What do you think?
30 days.
How long?
30 days.
30 days?
Like 3 months.
3 months? What do you think?
No, probably at least 30 days.
In general, because everybody's a little different, but we're all made the same way. You're looking at, for the brain chemistry to be at a reasonable functional level prior to the use, you're looking at about 30 to 40 days to get regulated. Now, really after about 7 to 10 days of abstinence from the chemical or drug, your brain will regulate itself reasonably. But in order to get all the way back to fully functional, you're looking at 30 to 40 days. But it's really the first couple weeks that are very difficult, where you're going to be going through that chemical process of homeostasis again. So it's important to understand that when you quit something like that, you're not going to be happy for a while. It's going to affect dopamine levels, serotonin levels, GABA levels, oxytocin. There's all kinds of chemicals, 10 or 15 or so, that are very much affected. And that's going to affect your mood. It's going to affect how you feel, how you function, how you think, how you perceive. So you have to be aware of that. And you have to kind of prepare for that. How would you prepare? How can you lessen the severity of those types of imbalances? Is there anything you could do, or you just got to tough it through?
Sugar.
What's that?
Sugar.
Well, what do you crave when you go through withdrawals?
Sugar.
Someone was just telling me about that today. Sugars, salts, and fats. Why? Because that's the ingredients the brain needs to produce more dopamine. And because that's what you've been abusing and overstimulating dopamine in your brain for so long, because you're using an external substance, that your dopamine levels are shot out. So now the factory inside your brain that produces them is shut down because you put it out of business by using your drug or alcohol for so long. So now you've got to get the factory back open. And that's going to take a little time. You just don't snap your fingers and have it start functioning again. So it needs all of the temporary filler, which is the salts, sugars, fats, those types of cravings, in order for you to produce it. And that's a temporary stay. But then what happens is you've got to wake that factory back up. And that could take a couple weeks for it to get back and running and even producing a little bit, not even the amount you need. So what can you do to expedite that, to make that go quicker? Is there something you can do?
Exercise.
Yeah, the go-to for almost everything is exercise and nutrition and sleep. The problem with exercise, nutrition, and sleep is you don't want to do those things well when you feel like crap. You're not motivated to go to the gym when you feel miserable. You crave sugar, salts, and fats, so it's not likely you're going to eat healthy foods. Does that make sense? In lieu of. So you have to be aware of this and mindful of this and prepare for that while you're going through this. Is it okay to eat the sugary salts and fats for a little while just to get past the cravings? Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. But you also have to supplement with a good, healthy diet. Otherwise, you can get sick. Eating unhealthy foods like that, or processed foods and sugary foods, could cause you to exacerbate the withdrawal process and the recovery process. It make it worse, the recovery process. All right? So, exercise regularly, 3-4 times a week. Sauna would be a good way to help the body get rid of those toxins quicker and for your body to repair itself faster. Hydration and sleep. Now, I'm going to assist you guys with the over-the-counter type supplements for sleep after this, and then I'll show you what could help with those areas. Now, when you're withdrawing from caffeine, nicotine, alcohol, marijuana, all of those things, and yes, you do withdraw from marijuana, it's important to have a structured environment. Structured environment. You need to organize. You have to prepare. So my suggestion would be to kind of get a planner, or at least write out like a planner, the course of your day. For one, because this is going to help you identify when you're miserable the most during the day. And then we can adjust for that, either through food, exercise, sleep, interaction, those types of things, because you have to compensate for that. If I know I get tired every day and get exhausted at 3 o'clock, I can prepare for that. And then I can do some type of activity, use some kind of food or supplement to get past that part of the day until I'm back into the normal swing. And I only need to really do that, like we said, for 5 to 7 days until that pattern is broken. Does that make sense? So the exercise, that's going to be big, because then that's going to cut down and mitigate those lulls of foggy thinking, of lethargia, of being tired, exhausted, of being sad, of having those ups and downs. It won't take them away completely, but it certainly will make it a lot better. Okay? Here's the other problem we run into. Let's say that you're exercising regularly, you get your diet under control, you're having outlets with friends and family talking about things, and that's kind of stabilized you enough to go through this process of withdrawal and adjustment. We're looking to get past 3 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks. Really, the first week is the hardest. Then it goes to the second week. If you can get past the second week, now you're starting to glide downhill a little bit. You know what I mean? You've reached the top, and now you can start to go downhill. But here's the biggest barriers. In that 2-week period, outside of the physical exercise and nutrition and organization, stabilization of your environment, so as to limit stress, anxiety, toxicity from bad people and those other influences, what do you got to do? What's the biggest cause of relapse? Hands down, bar none. Old people, places, and things. I used to use the example of the bartender getting clean and then maintaining his work as a bartender, or her work as a bartender.
That must be hard.
Well, okay. Well, now see, that's common sense just kicked in, right? So critical thinking says what? What is the likelihood that a person getting clean from alcohol can be a bartender and not be greatly influenced or relapsed in that environment? It would be very difficult. It can be done, but it's very difficult. Why? Because it's too early to put yourself into old people, places, and things. And here's the circular dilemma that we hear is, well, I can't quit my job because then I'll be homeless, but that's going to lead you to continue to abuse alcohol and drugs, and that's going to get you homeless. Which one do you want to get you homeless? One is faster than the other, obviously, so that has to be contemplated during the process of recovery is, hey, is there another avenue? Because if I stay in this, I'm never going to get better. And even worse things are going to happen to me. Or that person could try to maintain sobriety in that environment. It's possible. It's highly unlikely. You see the dilemma? I can't do this or this will happen, but if I do this, this will happen. And that's that circular dilemma. And that's a real one. They're not making it up. It's very real and true. So that's the process that one has to go through and make those decisions. They're very difficult decisions. If you tell that to someone who's been in that environment for so long that, hey, you may not be able to do this, how do they feel immediately? They get that sick feeling in their stomach. They get that little shot in the back of their head that gives them the hair stand up, and they like, oh man, I don't even want to think about that, because what am I going to do? So that's the dilemma. Now, how do we help with that? Well, physical stabilization first and foremost. Organization helps because you need to regulate how much money do I need to support myself? How am I going to get this money in an alternative way? Is bartending the only job in the world?
No.
No. Have bartenders transitioned from bartending into other careers?
Yes.
Okay. So it is possible. So just knowing that the realm of that possibility exists is a good start. That doesn't mean that you have to quit your job immediately and go find. My suggestion is start organizing. How much money do I need? What are my living arrangements? How can I do this and stuff? Once I have all those ducks in a row and I know exactly what I need minimally, then I could start the process of moving in the right direction. The right direction may be looking for alternatives. What would be an alternative where I'm not exposed to that all the time? My first question is, not my first, but another question would be, do most people who are addicted to alcohol or drugs know or think they are addicted to alcohol and drugs? You would think they would know, right? Do they? The answer is no. Most people who are absolutely alcoholics don't think they're alcoholics. Why is that? They know they have problems with alcohol. They know they overindulge alcohol and that it causes problems in their life. They just don't know the extent of it because they haven't been sober in a long time. And they don't get drunk all the time. See, that's the rationale, is they think there's only one type of addiction for alcohol. There's only one type of alcoholism. There's not. There's actually three. You have your standard stereotypical, which is the drinking every day. That person is getting drunk every day. They're not really getting drunk. They're drinking so that they don't get sick. They're not even really getting drunk or high anymore. They're just literally drinking every day because if they don't, what will happen? They get sick and they can't function. So that makes up about 10% of alcoholics. Only a tiny percentage, 10%. So you still have 90% of two different types of alcoholics. So you're looking at 40% and 50% of different alcoholics. What's the other type of alcoholic? This one accounts for about 50%. Yeah, believe it or not, there's another type. Yeah. These are what we call binge alcoholics, binge drinker alcoholics. They may only drink every once in a while. These are usually younger kids, college-age kids that are in college, or kids that are, in school or trades or something younger. And what they'll do is they stay sober most of the time, but Halloween or special events or Christmas or these birthdays or spring breaks or spring breaks or summer break, when they do drink, it's not in moderation. They binge drink. And that's the most common type of alcoholic. Now, can some people use alcohol every once in a while in moderation and not have problems? The answer is yeah, of course. The vast majority of people do that. They may not drink very often. When they do, they moderate the alcohol. There's no consequences to it. They don't harm themselves. It's not great for you, but they're not doing anything stupid. They're not making bad decisions. They're not physically getting sick. They're not going through withdrawal or hangovers or nothing. And that's typically the ideal way, if you're going to drink that way. Drinking socially means without consequence. That means you drink in moderation. So binge drinking's different because you're drinking with the sole purpose of really getting drunk and, in your mind, I guess, having fun. But it serves no purpose because getting drunk doesn't make you feel better than inebriation. Intoxication is not better than inebriation. Inebriation is where you are relaxed, you feel good, you're enjoying yourself. There's a big difference between inebriation and intoxication. You're still able to make good decisions when you're inebriated. You don't have any physical withdrawal or hangovers when you're done. So ideally, inebriation, and that lasts for about 3 hours. And that's just having a few drinks over the course of several hours where you feel good. It lowers your inhibitions, lowers blood pressure, which is good for you. It makes you forget about things. Not forget, but not care too much more about those stresses. It relieves the anxiety and stress and then helps you as like a social lubricant to laugh and meet people and hang out and dance and have a good time. And then you're sobered up within a couple hours, right after you stop, and you're not over the legal limit by any means or even close to it, but you've had a wonderful time and you've enjoyed it and you're no worse to wear. You can go home and go to work and you're fine. You're fine. That's ideal. The binge drinker, that's a person that's going out with a mission, and that mission is to get faded, to really drink until they lose their faculties and make bad decisions. And there's always consequence with that. That's the highest rate of injury and death comes from binge alcoholics. Because they don't drink very often, but when they do, they're drinking so much they make horrible, devastating decisions, like jumping off, drowning, getting in a car accident, all kinds of terrible, terrible things. Okay? And what's the third one? This makes up about 40% of people in terms of addiction for alcoholism. It's the functional alcoholic. Here's the one that's silent and quiet. That person isn't aware that they are a functional alcoholic. Why? Because of the functionality part. Now, are they functioning at their full capacity or potential? Absolutely not. So that's a semantics, I guess. When we say functioning, you got to take it with a grain of salt because they're not functioning at their best. They certainly aren't functioning at their potential compared to not drinking at all. No human being can say, well, I'm better off when I drink regularly versus when I don't. Nobody. Productivity is completely different. Your physical health and well-being, your affect, your mood, your neurochemistry, your relationships with other people will be infinitely better when you are not drinking or using drugs, period. That's not debatable. So to say that you're functioning, yeah, I guess technically you're holding a job. You may even be in a relationship. You may even have kids. These are the guys that work the 9-to-5s. They, Monday morning, they're at work on time. They work hard all week. Come Friday night, what's happening? They're getting drunk. They're not drinking a little bit. They're getting drunk. And they get drunk Saturday. Sunday, by noon, they got to stop. Why? Got to sober up just enough to be able to sleep and be able to get up Monday. And so on. Are they at their best on Monday? Probably not, but they're able to get into work and they're doing their job. Come Tuesday, they feel a little better. Wednesday, they're firing up and working at their best. Thursday, they're doing great. Friday, they did great. And then back to the pattern. Go home, get drunk, do this, drunk all weekend, Sunday. When you're drunk all weekend, are you a good dad? Oh, you say, well, no, I love my kids and I have fun when I'm drunk and I relate to them better. Same with weed. I've heard morons say that, where they say that they function better or that they interact better, and all I do is give my kids hugs when I'm high. You think that kid doesn't understand that they're under the influence, that they're not connected? Of course.
Yes, it
Of course.
can.
Everybody knows that there isn't functionality. Guys, wait till later on. Let me finish this. So when somebody is under the influence on the weekend or high or whatever, you're not interacting with your kids the same way. You think that you're interacting wonderfully and great, but you're not. That's in your mind, in your distortions in thinking. The kids are fully aware of it, and they know dad isn't actually there, that dad's under the influence, that dad's drinking or high or what have you. And that affects them horribly. There's no good comes of that.
They don't say
Okay.
anything, but
Of course they're not going to say anything. That's their gods. That's their people that they idolize and love and want to be loved by, and they have no right to say anything because they're a kid. So that's a huge problem. That's a huge problem. So most people that are functional or even binge alcoholics, they're not aware that they're doing it. They're not aware at all because it slowly and gradually got to that point. They didn't start that way. And because they've been functional and functional and functional, and they become a little less functional each time, and believe it or not, guys, this is progressive. It will get to that point of the stereotypical. It generally starts with the binge, then it turns into the functional, and then it turns into the stereotypical. This could take 15, 20 years to do this. 15 to 20 years. And you see those patterns all the time. This is the same with pills and marijuana and other behaviors, gambling, all kinds of stuff. So it's not atypical, it is typical. All right? So that's why people have difficulty with stopping, because they'll quit for a while, they'll feel good, and they'll say, see, I proved it. I don't have a problem with drugs and alcohol. I quit 48 hours, 72 hours. I proved it to myself. Alcoholics can't go 72 hours without. That's not true. Even full-blown stereotypical alcoholics, if I threaten them with jail, they'll stop for 20 days, 30 days. They'll white-knuckle it through, but they can't stop consistently over time. They can't. It's not possible for them. Physiologically, the mechanism in the brain that creates a satiation or the breaks is no longer viable. It no longer works. So no matter what that person does, no matter how they try, and they've tried, any person who's an alcoholic has tried to quit or moderate drinking hundreds and hundreds of times. Well, I can't drink on this day, or I can only drink beer. No more liquor, or I can't have tequila, or I can only drink here, or I'll switch to this, or I'll get that and do this. They literally organize their life around drinking and the consequences of it. And they think that somehow mitigates their drinking problem, but it doesn't, because it's still there. And the second they do good for 3 or 4 weeks, eventually what happens? They can't be consistent with it. They cannot be consistent with it. No matter what, if they drink beyond a certain point, they're off and running. That tells you that they are an alcoholic. And once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic. That doesn't mean you'll suffer with it. That doesn't mean you'll have the cravings anymore once you quit and get a new lifestyle. But if you were to go back to drinking, you could probably moderate for a little bit, but you'll be right back where you were because you don't have brakes in your car. Does that make sense? Car meaning your brain. So that's never going to change. You can't go to the store and get a new amygdala or hippocampus and have it installed like a part in a car. Once you've gone and dismantled or disabled that area in your brain of satiation, you can't go get a new one. It's permanent. If I remove your arm, do you grow another one? No. That means you'll never be able to use that arm again because it's not there. You don't have one. Does that mean you're done for? No, you got another arm. You can do other things. You can do stuff that doesn't require two arms, or you can get an adaptation to it, and so on. So you can adapt to it. You don't need it to survive. Same with drinking. Who says that alcohol is required for your life?
No.
In fact, a lot of people, once they reach a certain age, they don't even drink anymore because they don't like the feeling it gives them and the hangovers and the physical health issues. So they just don't drink anymore. And they were avid drinkers early on in life. And they did it of their own accord just because it's not worth it. It doesn't amount to anything. 30 years of having problems because of alcohol or losing money and wasting your time, most people are like, that's just dumb. What's the purpose of it? It doesn't serve any purpose. That doesn't mean they won't have a couple cocktails at brunch or a special occasion or something like that, but they just don't do the regular drinking anymore because it doesn't yield anything beneficial. Nothing. And the older you get, the more harm it causes and the harder it is to recover from. So that's usually the wake-up call for most people, is in their late 30s, early 40s, they're like, I can't take the beating it gives me. And then when they stop, they realize, holy cow, I got pocket money, I'm more productive, my relationships are better, my physical health is getting better, and they're like, why would I? Well, that was dumb. And they learn their lesson, and they go on. And when they do drink alcohol, it's only in moderation and situationally and occasion. That's how it's supposed to be. Unfortunately, for 30% of the population out there, that's not how it is. They have a permanent aversion to alcohol. And every time they drink or try to consistently drink over time, they're going to have serious consequences to it. The legal issues, relationship issues, physical. When I say relationship, meaning drunk people are inconsistent, unreliable. They're obnoxious a lot of the times. They have mood swings. They don't emotionally, they're not available. When you're hungover, you're not emotionally available. When you're drunk, you're not emotionally available. You're not consistent. You're not productive. How is that going to make for a good relationship in a marriage or anywhere else or as a friend? I have friends, they're alcoholics. A lot of them don't know they're alcoholics. And they're very limited in our friendship. Why? Because they're not consistent, reliable, or able to connect in that way. Because their mind is always altered. And they're always dysfunctional. And they've always got stuff. Does that make sense? Is that appealing to a healthy, normal person? No. No. Why would I invite toxicity into a good life? You wouldn't. You'd avoid it. That doesn't mean you don't like the person, but you limit the contact and the emotional attachment because you know that person's going to be unreliable. You know that person's going to disappear. You know that person's going to disappoint you. You know that person's going to be toxic at times. Why would you? You don't want that. So you limit your friendship. That could be a wonderful, good friendship into an acquaintanceship. That's a problem. Think about an intimate relationship. You think that a partner that goes out and gets drunk isn't going to make horrible decisions that leads to infidelity and fights and disappointments and letdowns? Of course. And that's going to be a huge problem. Huge. So that's why, alcohol in excess is always bad. It's always bad. And again, when I say alcohol, I mean marijuana, I mean pills, I mean behaviors or gambling, video games, social media. I go on and on and on. Anything that you do in excess is problematic to the point of dysfunction, period. There's no exception to that rule. So, the hardest part is old people, places, and things. Lifestyle change is required for a healthy, sober existence. It's required. You can't go back in and still have the same old people, places, and things. The biggest obstacle, number one, is old friends, because most likely, if you were hanging out with them, it's because they were also alcoholics and drug addicts. They were also dysfunctional, period. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been hanging out with them, and they wouldn't have been hanging out with you. So that's a given. If I just beat lung cancer by stopping cigarettes and being away from it, and now that I'm healthy and I'm feeling better, do I go back in to the smoking rooms with all my friends who smoke, and am I going to expose myself to all the smoke again? I could do that. What's going to happen though? I'm going to get cancer again. Yeah, and I'll die from it. So unless those people quit smoking and then you guys find a new thing to do, wonderful. That's great. And that's who you're going to find out who your friends are. Did you ever have hear the phrase, a friend with weed is a friend indeed? That's just that's an old saying in the 80s that basically says, listen, we're friends, not because we're friends because we share drugs and we share alcohol and a lifestyle. Take that away, and what do we have? Zero. Like I said, drug addicts, toxic people, they're not good friends. They're great acquaintances with drugs and alcohol. They're great for someone to go get wild with and do crazy stuff while you're under the influence of stuff. And you think that's friendship. It's not. Because the second you need something, the second you want to better your life, are they there to support you? No. Nope. Kick rocks. Unfortunately, I have a saying that I made up quite some time ago, and through the school of hard knocks. You're only as good as what you have that somebody wants. As soon as you stop having that, then the people around you are going to disappear. So if your like interest, if what they want is superficial and fake, then that's when they'll be around. The second that's gone, so are you. And you say, well, wait a minute. Well, what can I do about that? Well, it's easy. Create something that everybody wants. And when I say everybody, I mean healthy people, everybody. If I'm a good person, I'm reliable, I'm consistent, I'm a good friend, I'm loyal, I'm honest, and I'm reciprocal, and I'm emotionally available. If I'm all those good things, who's going to gravitate towards me? Those old acquaintances that are drug addicts and alcoholics, are they going to want to be around me? No. But who will? Good people, decent people, people that are worthy of friendship and love and the receipt of facilitation of love. And those are the people you want to be around. Those are the people you want in your life. You don't want those other folks because they're not going to help you. In fact, a lot of them, the second you come out and say, man, I'm clean and sober 3 weeks, I'm doing great, I feel fantastic, I don't want to drink anymore. Hey, that's great. Come on, man, have one drink. Let's celebrate, let's do that. They'll literally try to get you to do drugs and alcohol. They will literally try to get you to do drugs and alcohol when you just told them that your life was a disaster and now it's better. They're not going to support that. They're going to bring you down because misery loves company. Misery needs company. So they're going to try to break you down so that you're part of them. Yes, sir?
So how do you go if like that's your life and like that's your
I know.
routine and what you do?
I know.
How do you
Start with the physical.
Where do you
I know. And it leaves you lost. The reaction that you're having is a normal good one, and it's very upsetting, and it should be very emotionally painful, and it is, I can tell. What he's saying is, now what? What do I do? I'm all alone? You mean my whole life was fake or not real? No, I'm not saying that. There are parts that are stable. There are parts that are good. It's just you have to come from a foundation. And you're right. Is it going to be hard to make a lifestyle change? Yes. Does that mean you have to do it today? No. That's why I say the organization of how do I transition out? How do I collect all my belongings? If your house is on fire and you have to run in and get all of your stuff, what would you take? Right, you would be confused. You'd run in, you're like, oh my God, what do I grab? You'd probably grab whatever's around you and get out of there, and you're going to lose a lot of stuff. If I said you're going to have a fire in 3 weeks, Would you be able to get in there and get everything you need? Yeah. You see the difference? I'm not saying that it's a fire right now and you have to get out. What I'm saying is there's gonna be a fire. So start planning. What do I need to get? What do I have? Take a list of your assets. Who are my real friends? What are my avenues? What are my opportunities? Do you see what I'm saying? Now you're preparing. Because the fire's coming. And I'm telling you the fire's coming. Now you can prepare. Does that make sense? And you have to look at it like that. Otherwise, it's overwhelming. Isn't it? Nobody wants to say, oh my God, I can't. You know it's right. You know you're supposed to do it, but it's overwhelming, and that will push you back. So you have to eliminate some of the toxic friends. And here's how you do that. Is it a little manipulating? Is it lying? Yeah, good. So what? I hold no truth to those who are dishonest. Do you understand what I mean by that? And I don't cast pearls amongst swine. So why argue and debate and do all that stuff? Listen, are you with me or aren't you with me? This is my goal. This is what I want to do. This is where I'm at. Do you see that dream? Do you see what it is I need? Are you with me? The rats will scatter and jump the ship. The other ones will say, you know what? You'll have a quarter of or little, maybe over half will run and jump ship and say, screw you, you're an idiot. Then you're going to get a percentage that are going to say, I'll back you up. I'm not going to quit, but I'll back you up. I think what you're doing, I want to see how it turns out. And then you got a small percentage that will back you up, and then they say, you know what? I'm going to try doing what you're doing. In fact, I'm inspired by what you've done, so not only do I want to do it, but I'll help. So you're going to get a tiny percentage of those, and those are your real friends. Those are the people you want to keep. The other ones, acquaintances, because they're willing to not use around you and respect you. That's good. That's a great start. The other ones, good riddance. You don't need rats. You don't need parasites. They're not going to do anything. And if they were such good friends, why? First of all, do you consider yourself a good friend?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's say you and I were friends, and I came to you and said, hey, I'm going through a change in life, and I really want to better myself. I don't like what's happening or what I've been doing because it's not leading anywhere. It's actually causing me some problems. So I want to try something different. I want to try something better, something righteous and more good. If I said that to you, what would you say?
I would go for it.
Yeah, you'd support me, right? You're like, hey, that's maybe not for me, but I'm behind you 100%, right? That would be someone who's going to support you and back you up and respect you. If I am doing it and I'm doing well, are you glad that I'm doing that, or are you upset that I'm doing well?
Why would somebody be upset?
Exactly. Why would you be upset for someone doing good? Okay, now, here it is. The reason I'm asking you these questions is because there's people that you know currently that want you to use and go back into the lifestyle. Mm-hmm. They want you to join them in that lifestyle, correct? Yes, the answer is yes. Emphatically, yes. I don't even have to, it's rhetorical. Why? Now, you just looked at me when I asked you, why would you do that to me? You'd be like, what are you talking about? I wouldn't do that unless you're a piece of shit, unless you're toxic. You see, now, had I asked you this question out front, you'd be like, oh, you'd argue with me. But because we turned the logic around and we built it on a foundation of absolute truth, there's no way to deny that, correct? They're not taking pleasure in you getting sober. They're upset by it. And that's why they want you to go back to what you were doing. Why? Because misery loves company. Mm-hmm. They need you to be dysfunctional so that they're less dysfunctional.
They wanted to see you better, but not better than this.
Exactly. They'll support you while you're trying because they want you to fail. When you fail, oh, yeah, well, that's it.
I knew it.
Do you see? And we've all been through that, right? Everybody loves supporting you when you're struggling until you make it. And then what happens? They're gone. I have people that say they're my friends. I know they're not. I'm much smarter than them. I'm much more well aware of life and how it works. And I will come up with an idea and I want to promote that idea and they're in a position to help me of no cost to them, no cost to them at all. And I present that and say, hey, of all the times I supported you and helped you and build your business and all that other stuff over 20 years, I'm just asking that you help me. How about just do this one favor for me? It's of no cost to you. It's of little or no effort to you, and so on. They're like, oh, yeah. And then they run you around and they never do it. And it's such a simple thing to do to help build you up and they talked a bunch of shit, but they never follow through with it. In fact, they're the ones that are sabotaging it. Well, go talk to so-and-so and they'll set it up and they'll hook you up and stuff like that. And then I go talk to them and they're like, no, we don't know what you're talking about, or they don't even call you. And then you go back, oh, well, I can't do it because of this and that, and they come up with excuses. That person's full of shit. That person doesn't want you to do better. They want you to struggle, and then they tell you what a great guy they're going to be to you because they want that attention. They want that adoration. They want you to say, what a great guy.
Validation.
And then, well, if something happened, it didn't happen. Well, I tried. See what a good friend I am? But they're false. They're fake. They're liars. They're empty. And that's the majority of people. Especially here in Tampa.
Mm-hmm.
You know, all these friends that you have. Well, if you were my friend and I'm selling something, why not buy it?
Why not support?
Yeah, why? I've always helped you. So what is $10 out of your life to help me out or to spread this or to put my product out there? You mean to tell me you can't do that? After 15 years of friendships, of all the things I've done for you, helped you move, fixed your stuff, loaned you money, done all this stuff, you can't support me by helping me out or at least cheerleading and help me out? Really? Because those are the people who said, hey, anything you need, brother, anything you need, I'll help you with, man. I'm there for. I love you, man. I love you. That's when you're helping them. The second you ask for something simple, gone. That's not a good person. That's not a righteous person. So what do? Do you just not have any friends? No, you limit your interaction with those. You keep the ones that do help you here, close to you, and you reciprocate and build that. And then you have your acquaintances, and then you have those haters. You have the people that are acquaintances and they want what you have. They don't want to do anything to reciprocate getting it. You understand what I mean? So you have to be aware, and then you can get rid of the wolf in sheep's clothing. Because that's all they are. They're fake. They're no good. They're con artists. They're bullshit artists. And that's how they got to a certain level of success, is bullshitting people and lying to them and taking advantage and using them. It's unfortunate. But that's the way most people, or a lot of people, get ahead. By taking advantage of good people. By exploiting good people and promising everybody they're going to do stuff. And they never reciprocate. They just take and take and take and take. So I want to say that's Tampa in a nutshell. But I think it's everywhere now. It's spread. It is.
Humans are horrible.
Okay, but here's the thing. If you only go by what people do and not what they say, it would stop being horrible. Do you understand? You want to believe that those people are your friends because they say it and it makes you feel good. But when they're trying to get you to use and go back into the lifestyle and do things that they know are going to relapse you, they're not good. Because that's the opposite of what they're saying. Do you understand? And you have to remove them. You have to take a break. That may mean what?
But my question is, where do you find like a whole new circle of friends?
Okay. Yeah. I'll explain that. He's like, how come I don't have those friends? How come they're not built in? I'll use the adage that I always use, and people don't like it, but I'm going to do it anyways. If I stand in shit long enough, what's going to happen? I'm going to start to stink really bad, and I'm going to have shit on me. So if I walk up to people that don't have shit on them, that aren't standing in shit, that don't stink, and I say, hey, you want to hang out? What are they going to do? They're going to go, Jesus Christ, you stink, and you're covered in shit. No, I don't want to hang out with you. Why would I be offended? Why would I be surprised? I wouldn't. Now, let's say I go, wow, they're right. I am covered in shit, and I do stink pretty bad. And I go home, and I say, what can I do? Well, I'm going to shower. I'm going to scrub all that off. I'm going to change shoes. I'm going to put on new stuff. I'm going to change my life. So for one, I don't walk through shit every day. For two, I'm going to clean up and put on nice stuff and clean myself. And then I go out there and I introduce myself to those people with no shit on me, with no stink. And I say, hey, can we hang out? They're going to say, yeah, I'll give you a shot. And that's how. You'll attract those people when you stop stinking like shit. And when I say stinking like shit, what do you think I mean? Drugs, alcohol, that lifestyle. You know exactly what I mean. We all know exactly what we mean. And it doesn't have to be a lifestyle in the nightclub. It could be the way you act, the way you behave, the way you are. That's the lifestyle. You see? But I guarantee you, physically, you start exercising, you clean up with the nutrition, you start to get organized, you cut out some of the garbage here, you start to live a cleaner lifestyle. That means you're washing off, you're cleaning up, you're doing everything you're supposed to do, metaphorically. And guess what? Now people that are like, hey, I want to be like that. You have to emulate what you want to be. People don't follow you because you're being bad and you have the potential to be good. They follow you because you're already good. People are inspired by what you do, not what you say or your potential is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So become what you have the potential to be, and guess who's going to be waiting there? Other people with the same things. They're going to say, well, where were you at? Oh, I had to take a shower. But I'm here now. And they'll welcome you with open arms. And there's lots of them out there. There's lots of them. We're just waiting for you to take a shower and get cleaned up. That's it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. And there's people that you've been repulsed by that are those good people. And you were repulsed because they weren't in your life. They weren't they didn't do those things. And that's why you didn't like them. Not that you hated them. You just didn't want anything to do with them. And they didn't want anything to do with you. When you change, everything changes. That's a guarantee. It's guaranteed. I've watched people do it. I've done it. I've facilitated thousands and thousands of people to make those changes. And I've watched what they've turned into. And it's incredible. It's not that hard. The hardest part is getting out of that garbage. Is there any reason why you would say, well, I'm better under the influence of drugs and alcohol and living a degenerative lifestyle? What's the benefit of that? No. Can you have fun? Can you live and be excited and do and live the way you want to? Absolutely. But drinking and drugging and being inconsistent and non-productive in life and physically is degenerative, plain and simple. Degenerative, I mean, it breaks you down and destroys you, period. There's no debating that. So if you're choosing that self-destruction over productivity and wellness, of course, only other people that are on a self-destructive path are going to follow you. Do you see? You clear that up and you just even get neutral, then you can join this group over here. And they're way better people. Way better people. Because they're not destroying themselves. That's why. They're better people. And there's all kinds, which is great. Does everybody understand what I'm getting at here? Okay. I don't mean to speak encryptably, but I don't want to use the expletives too much. That's in general why people fail. The old people, places, and things. You need that 30 days of a good life, healthy lifestyle. Got to clean out some of the garbage. Got to get organized. You have to start taking inventory. You have to say, well, what do I have that's good? You've got to clear all that stuff up. You've got to clean from the inside out. And when you start doing it, you'll see people gravitating, going, I see what you're doing, man. I'm with you. I couldn't say anything over there amongst all those people because they were bad, but I'll say it to you now because here you are. And they'll come. They'll come for you. Now, what's a quicker route? That's a necessary route, so that's one that can't be skipped. But what could help with that? Finding good people? You can call the Crisis Center of Tampa, 964-1964-211, anywhere in Tampa, and you can say, listen, I'm looking for a support group of sober people. And they'll give you one. Stay away from the AA and NA. No offense to them. I'm not a big fan. I love the concepts. I love the stuff. I love all that. I just don't like the groups because there's a lot of drug use and alcoholism in the groups. I see y'all shaking your head, yeah, because you've probably been to some of them. So, but again, for now, I would say find those support groups online. They're all over the place now. People are desperate to get that. There's men's groups. There's all different, whatever orientation you have. There's anything from accountants to equestrians to straight people to gay people. Find a good support group of normal people, not to hook up with, just to see that there's good people out there and to have some friendship, somebody to talk to, someone to know, wait a minute, what I'm thinking is good. And there's a ton of them out there. So you're probably a Google away, but the Crisis Center knows